real talk.
Boom! Hard and welcome on this on a Friday night. We don't usually do Friday nights.
Friday night, yeah.
Alice, welcome back.
Hello. Yeah, it's been a little bit.
It's been a little bit, but happy to have you back. How are things?
Happy to be back. Yeah, I'm really excited. I got back from Japan. I have a couple items I have on the side to be like, look what I brought back from Japan. We can get into that in a little bit. But yeah, I'm really excited for the show. Obviously, as the title suggests, Deadpool and Wolverine. I'm really excited to talk about that.
We're definitely getting it. Yeah, we're going to be, just a heads up to everybody, we're going to be going, like, spoilers. I'm just going to put this up the whole time. Spoilers will be happening. It's the straight up right from the get-go. We are just going to we wanted to pick this movie not really apart, because I don't think there's really anything to really pick apart, but man, we left the movie last night pretty excited, pretty stoked. There's a lot in this movie, and it's not just cameos and fan service. The more I thought about it too, I was like, man, there's like some heavy stuff here.
I think it's a weirdly more of a serious film than the other two in some ways, while still being like Deadpool humor, you know.
I agree with that. I very much agree with that. Yeah, it definitely feels like a more serious, grounded movie somehow. Even though the other ones too, like, they still feel very like relatable and fun. This one's still all of that, but like there's some heavy shit that they get into, and it's great. Johnny Cock, thank you for being here, asking, did we get our popcorn buckets? Couldn't find them up here. I didn't get my cup out.
Yeah, I was like, did you prepare? Like, you could show them the boring tin bucket that they had.
I got the boring tin bucket, but I also got like the Wolverine sculpted cup.
Which was that, I think that one was pretty cool. I wish they had, all the stuff was out. Like, I wanted the Deadpool cup. They did not have that anymore.
I got the last one of the Wolverine cups.
Yeah.
That was like, so it was weird, man. So it was like, I was like, man, hang on. I want to talk about my first beef about this movie. It's got nothing to do with the actual movie, but the marketing behind it. Canada did not get enough love for a movie that has probably the biggest Canadian superheroes in existence, right? Deadpool and Wolverine. They are the two biggest names probably in X-Men, and they're also Canadian. Yet somehow they did a red carpet in, what did they all say? Like Taiwan, Germany, New York. Yeah, like all these places. Not one in Canada. You would think they would have done at least one in Saskatchewan, because that's where Deadpool is from, or one in Alberta, because that's where Wolverine is from. None of that. And then we didn't get any like special merch. Like, I'm sorry. I think Canada
never do. It's always America.
True, right? I get that. But I still think that like Canada should have got something totally special for this. I think
100%.
And I think they dropped the ball, and they let an entire nation down by not doing any of that. But I think that's probably like my biggest pick, right?
Yeah.
Tony Johnson's asking, where was the Regina premiere? Exactly, right? I was like, I said that so many times. Where is that? But before we do get rolling, let's say a quick howdy do to the chat. I know some of people popped in because they haven't seen it yet, but they just wanted to say hello. But we'll give you a shout out for the replay. And thank you for everyone who's going to be watching on the replay as well. We do understand not everyone has seen the movie yet. We're doing this pretty early. Derlaxian is here. Johnny Cock, Matt Bush, my benefactor, Matt Bush, is here. Skylar Davis, Tony Johnson, Luis Ballesteros. I hope I said that right. And he's stoked that Alice is back as well. Flash 739, Traverno 2332 or 2332. But yes, catch you on the replay as well. Thank you for coming in, popping by and saying hi. Derek Hoover also popping in to come say hi. Yeah, no, thank you for everyone who's here. We do understand it's going to be a quieter night than usual, and that's okay. Johnny Cock, Canada gets to rent Ryan Reynolds 30 seconds at a time. Well, Ryan Reynolds posted today he's actually in Vancouver attending a play on his Instagram today. So he is here in Vancouver somewhere, but he's not with us. So alas. Here we are.
Yeah,
but we're
unfortunate.
He's gonna get all the praise in the world. All right, should we get into this?
Sure.
All right. When you you quickly slipped in, I think you only missed like 5 minutes of the first bit.
Yeah, but I was like, sorry, I'm cutting you off, but I'm so heated. I was like back and forth wondering if I should go to the bathroom, and then I'm like literally crossing over people's legs, going in and out twice, because I leave and then it like says put on your 3D glasses, and I'm like, oh no, and then I go back and I'm like, oh, it's only like advertisements that are in 3D, and then I leave again and I come back and the movie's already started. I was gone for like 3-4 minutes tops. That was the shortest commercial break ever. Like, what's happening?
Well, it was so for those who, we had the trailer for Brave New World, for the new Captain America movie, which was in 3D, which has me like, so is 3D back? Because I feel like it's been a few years since I've seen a movie in 3D, because even this movie was in 3D, which I don't know if it had to be. But we'll get into the nitpicks of the 3D and we'll get into the VFX a little later as well. But this comes from people who work in the industry. So, I mean, take our word like a very big grain of salt, I guess.
Wait, I gotta... Look! I can't, I have to, okay? It was worth it. It was worth it.
Yeah. I mean, you were eating popcorn. It'd be best to wash your hands.
Could have just peed in the seat, clearly.
Yeah.
That's what I get for being polite.
But the opening was great, with him just starting off where Logan left off, more or less, but like, years later. And God, it was so cool. And it was just, that's where you pretty much came in, was him just kind of like griping.
Yeah.
About like legit, like you missed like 3 minutes of watching him dig. So of all the times, you picked the best time. And then that's where they kind of give us like the big flashback of like, his birthday, or just even him at work with, oh God, what? See, I better have this thing open. I guess I better also open the IMDb page.
Because I want to start, before we even skip to that, is that Deadpool. I mean, I'm a big fan. They consistently show up for the opening credits. Like, the first Deadpool film was iconic, with I think it's over the bridge in the car, or when he's fighting, is that first opening credit scenes, which was iconic, and everyone loved that. And then the second one was the James Bond recreation opening credits. And you're like, how do you top that, And then they went in with again, we're straight into spoilers, guys, but the boy band one, yeah. And like going along with the trend of like using like retro or like music that has already been made in films, but like doing it so well, you know what I mean?
It's the way he would go from like killing people with parts of Wolverine's skeleton.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden it would take like this little weird pause of him doing the dance from the NSYNC music video.
Yeah, the actual dance. He was full on doing the dance.
And then it would cut again to him killing. And it was just like, your brain is still trying to like comprehend what's going on.
Yeah.
Because it's just so visually vibrant.
Yes.
Yeah. And it was, and again, it was just cool. There was something about the violence in this movie specifically that just seemed to be so sleek and beautiful and like just easy. Like, I don't know how to like it. It was so dynamic. I guess that's another.
I don't know if this is me, because I did not rewatch the first two films before I went in to watch the third. So I'm only kind of basing this off of memories a couple years old at this point. But I feel like there was more violence in this film. Am I wrong? I feel like the violence was more intense. And I know it's Deadpool. We expect violence. Obviously, wasn't he like the first R-rated hero film? Well, no, sorry. that wouldn't be right. But like for mainstream, it's like R-rated just wasn't a thing for superhero films for a while. But I watched this film and I was like, dang, the gore is gory.
And it was and it was great. There's a lot of stabbing in the crotch in this movie.
Yeah.
There's
yeah.
a lot of
more than usual, happening. If you can believe. Yeah.
More than usual. Yes, right. And the Tony Johnson, NSYNC updated the video title on the YouTube to include from Deadpool and Wolverine. That again, you got to, right? Because there's probably a lot of like teenagers who wouldn't know where the song is from, right? So it makes total sense. Right? Yeah, I would agree with that. Yeah.
But also, I would totally also believe that Ryan Reynolds was like, we need to ask NSYNC to update their title because that is funny. Like, I would totally see him doing that just for marketing.
I could totally see that too. And I'm like, but again, that opening, just how beautiful all the blood looked floating in the air. Then it would be like the people's names and like just all the cool adamantium bone stuff. And it just the way it kicks off with that, like him strapping on the forearms of Wolverine onto himself and popping the claws. And I was like, whoa, like, okay, this is like already they're just giving it to us all, like right from the get-go. They didn't wait. And it does kind of remind me of that set, like from Deadpool 2, where they do the James Bond opening, but they also kind of kick it off with 9 to 5 and him doing all his like mercenary work for hire stuff.
Yeah.
And it took me back to that as well. And I was like, that's awesome. Daco's collecting. I can't believe I'm saying this, but this might have been the best Marvel movie yet.
Ooh, hot take.
That is something else I want to get into is, and we'll get into this in a little bit, but I do want to talk about this movie and Guardians of the Galaxy and why they feel like the best Marvel movies, but they don't feel like Marvel movies. Right?
Okay. Yeah.
Like I want to get into that in a little bit, but yeah, we go into this whole like you said, the opening credits, they're super fun. They're super dynamic. The violence was incredible. Lots of goons. It was so good. And then that's where they kind of like go back to like, Peter's they're going to Peter's work, right? They're at where Wade now works with Peter over at the car dealership.
Yes.
And we kind of like get like more of kind of like flashbacks of what's been happening with Wade since we last seen him. So we see him having that interview over in another dimension over at 616.
Original.
The MCU. The original dimension. The MCU dimension. Trying to get into the Avengers. And it's him and Happy.
Yeah.
Which again,
did you do the math? When exactly is that? I know it said 2018, but I didn't do the math of when that would be canonically in the timeline.
Oh, I didn't do. Because
I remember thinking about that. I was like, I wonder where we actually are exactly.
When does Endgame take place? Hang on. Endgame. Hang on. Give me a moment here as I type. Sorry, folks. This is just how we do it. 5 years. Oh God, give me a year. Come on.
Because later on we find out that this is 6 years prior to where the movie currently is happening, so that we do a flashback to Happy Hogan. I'd be interested to hear when this is happening. A great cameo though. I thought it was really nice to start off with Happy Hogan.
Endgame begins shortly after Infinity War and ends in 2023.
So it's before. Sorry, did you say it started shortly after that?
Yeah, and Endgame begins in 2023. So that means
then it's before all of that. Everyone's still alive. Everyone's obviously he's trying to join the Avengers, so they're all alive. But okay, interesting.
Right, and it's funny because he's like Thor is crying, and it was like which we never got the payoff for, by the way. We never got because now that makes sense, because they were almost recreating the Tony Stark Peter Parker moment from Endgame.
I didn't connect that. We're jumping around a little bit.
We're jumping around a little bit.
People who haven't seen the movie are gonna be real confused, but
yes. And if you haven't seen the movie, you should not be watching this right now. As a heads up,
it is well worth the watch. If you were like, oh, I don't want to watch Marvel films because they're not so great anymore, this one was definitely worth the watch.
Yeah, it's absolutely yes. But yeah, sorry, we are jumping around a lot. But we do get like he's at that interview.
Yes.
And he's, and Happy's pretty much like quizzing him, and Wade is failing miserably.
But I think it's so cute that he's trying so hard, like actually trying so hard. Because sometimes Deadpool's a little like whatever, kind of blasé.
Too cool for school.
Yeah, but he's like, my girlfriend is gonna leave me if you don't give me this job. And I was like, oh, Wade.
Right? Like, yeah, it was really sweet. And that was actually something in the story I wasn't expecting too. We'll get to that when we get in a little bit. And then so we kind of get through
6 years. We're at the car sales, yeah.
Yeah, we are at the car sales. And then it's him and Peter and just hanging out in the locker room for work, and they're just kind of like having just that moment of like, Peter's like, hey, you should get in the suit again. He's like, no, like, why do you even have it? Like, why do you have a suit? Like,
yeah,
there's no reason. We're not going to get back into it. That's that. And then as he's on his way home from work, he kind of notices looks like people are spying on him,
but
he's not quite sure. And then that's when we get to the birthday party. And that's when we kind of realize like Wade's living a completely different life.
And a good one though. You kind of, things are bad in some instances in that he's not happy with where he is, like with work, and like obviously he's no longer together with Vanessa. But on the other hand, like he has a great group of friends, like they're all still friends and they're having a good time and they're clearly supporting each other, even though, maybe Wade and Vanessa aren't together. And I think, and I'm sure we'll come back to this multiple times while we're discussing the film, this is where you kind of get the feeling like it's more serious than other films, right? They're talking about things that otherwise they have not touched on in other Deadpool films, things about like what he cares about and like his future and like him actually striving for certain goals, which Deadpool is not really that kind of person.
Right. Like he's legit talking to his friends, but he's also keeping everyone at a slight arm's length at this birthday party.
Yeah.
Right. But he's still talking very like calmly, and he's talking very like, hey, like, thank you. Like, sounds more appreciative and grateful that everybody's there.
And he has hair.
Yes. Yeah. The new hair. Very thankful for that. That is so good. And I'm just trying to think of what else was all happening in that scene. That was, because it was him and Vanessa just kind of having that like awkward moment of like, hey, are you seeing someone? That to me is where you start to feel that like, okay, we are having a completely different movie.
Yeah. And that Vanessa is doing really well. She just got a promotion. She's seeing someone. She's like seemingly moving on. Yep. Hair system, not a toupee. Okay. Get it right.
Yeah.
But Wade is seemingly struggling in contrast, right? In direct contrast, he still misses her. He's actively struggling. He's unhappy. But he's still Wade, so he's still, humorous and making fun of the situation.
Right. Yes. And then that's when he gets the TVA shows up. This is where we get the whole like knock on the door. We saw it in the trailer, and it gets a little extended. And it's great. Like I love. First off, I have to say I love Loki. I think we both do. And I've always loved the look of the TVA.
Yes, big fan.
Right? That retro future.
Yeah.
I love it. I love it so much.
Oh, good. Mm-hmm.
So to see it on the big screen and just seeing some characters back from Loki as well. Uh, awesome.
Yeah.
It made me really, really happy to see that.
Yeah.
And
And I
that's
will say,
yeah. Oh, go ahead.
sorry, go on.
Yeah. Nope. Go.
I was gonna say, I often complain about how I hate the fact that everything's connected these days. Like, you need to watch, WandaVision in order to truly understand Doctor Strange. Like, uh, and I was a little bit concerned when I saw the trailer. I was like, both happy because Deadpool's kind of being linked to the main MCU. I was like, that's really cool because I'm a big fan of Deadpool, but also, like, I really don't want this to go down the road where you have to watch 3 TV shows and 2 movies in order to understand the next Deadpool film. Um, and I'm happy to report, I feel like, yes, they're linking and stuff, but if you had never watched Loki, it would have still made sense. Like,
Yes.
they explain enough and they establish kind of like a separate system in place enough that if you had not watched any of the other shows, it would have been a delightful movie regardless.
Right. You just get that extra like, oh, you get to do that
Yeah.
Leonardo DiCaprio meme if you've seen it. That's all. That's the
Yeah.
only big difference. And you're right. Because they do enough exposition, which Deadpool even calls out at one point, which I loved. And then this is where we kind of find out things aren't necessarily, kind of says like, hey, we can save, like, you can come to the MCU and all this kind of stuff. Like,
You
let's
can join the Avengers. Like, we
join
can put you in a universe where you are part of the Avengers. Again, contrasting
yes.
directly with this whole beginning sequence of Wade feeling like he's not doing anything with his life, that he's just, coasting, kind of floating through life. They're like, you can be an Avenger, and all you have to do is give up your universe and all these people in it. You can be an Avenger.
Right. Because he was
Um,
ready to go back and get everybody. He's like,
yeah.
I'll get
He's like,
everyone and
let me spread
we'll
the news.
head on over. And found out that he couldn't. And this is great too. Like when he's getting like I know we saw a bit of that montage again in the trailer. Again, it's extended and it's amazing.
Yeah.
Dartharian, the tailor was a bit of a perv. Indeed he was. Yeah, and the I'm Marvel Jesus.
I'm Marvel Jesus.
Yeah. So good.
Yeah.
Right, it was like, again, all that stuff between him and with the TVA, and he's like, and that one dude who works the TVA who kept staring at him, like gazing
Yeah.
at him, like so good.
So good.
He's like,
Yeah.
well, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna break your nose and get out of here, which he does
Hmm.
gracefully. And then when he grabs the little like compact, the little
The
universal
TVA device. Yeah.
right, he kind of he bounces the hell out of there. And that's where we get back to the very beginning of the whole digging up. And he's kind of
Yes.
like, okay, now you're all caught up. And
Yes.
so what he finds out within that meeting of the TVA as well is that like your main character of your universe is dead, which was Logan. That
Yeah.
Logan. The Logan from Logan. Right?
Yeah.
He's like,
Yeah.
that one's dead. And without a Wolverine, you have no universe.
Yeah. Which kind of crazy concept.
It
Like,
is.
whoa. Is that how this is working?
But
Interesting.
it kind of is true. Like it is this because of like when you think about it, that's how Hollywood thought of Wolverine. And this goes all the way back
Hmm.
to like X-Men 92, which is why almost all the episodes revolved around Wolverine. And
Yeah.
the movies revolved around Wolverine. And then
Yeah.
they just said, screw it, let's just get rid of the X-Men part. Let's just make Wolverine movies.
Yep.
Right? Because he was the dude. And which is like now it's complete, like the whole landscape of X-Men is thanks to like 97 and Deadpool, I think has completely changed. Like Wolverine is still like the guy, but now they're building everybody up around him. You know how it's like high tides raise all ships. I
Yes.
feel like we're in that point of the X-Men where it's like we elevate Scott, then we elevate Storm. Now we can elevate everyone else around it. And I think it's worked very, very well.
Mm,
And I feel like this is like that whole thing of like Wolverine's dead, you've got nothing. That is a
yeah.
very Hollywood corporate way to think.
Yeah. I just had a thought. Maybe this is jumping the gun a little bit for further conversation later on, but Do you think they're trying to make the X-Men the next Avengers?
Yes,
You know, they're like
100%.
scrambling for this thing because everyone hates what's happening right now, and they're like,
Yeah.
another established group that people like. What if we just took it mainstream? Uh, this seems to be working.
But I honestly think, I do. I honestly think now, because again, 97 became such a massive hit for them, and I don't think they were expecting that at all. I still think that caught them blindsided. You got to remember, like, it was a few years ago. They released a video game, Marvel versus Capcom Infinite, and this was at the point where like Disney was very much against having anything X-Men or Fantastic Four in any other product. They weren't making them in action figures, so no Marvel Legends. They weren't allowed to be in video games, get their own video games. They weren't on shirts. You couldn't have any. If Fox owned it, they could not be on any of the merchandise. They canceled all of Deadpool's titles. He had 5 separate solo titles at one point, ongoing. Boom, all canceled. They killed Wolverine. And then they said, oh no, this is our idea of storytelling. And they canceled Fantastic Four, the longest running freaking comic in Marvel history. They canceled it out of pettiness for Fox, right? Like, it's insane, right? And then they're trying to tell us like, oh, we're going a different direction. If all this is not a coincidence that you're all of a sudden like, they're gone.
It's
and
true.
So even with Marvel versus Capcom Infinite, and they had usually like, you have to have Wolverine and Storm. Those are the character, and Cyclops. Those are your 3 that you put in every fighting game.
Yeah.
And the moment they were taken out, the game bombed because everyone was like, well, where's our guys?
Yeah.
Right? Like, it's bonkers. So I actually do see where, like, and what did they say? They were like, so when they did that with Marvel versus Capcom Infinite, somebody at Capcom or at Marvel, and I can't remember which one, said because someone asked them, hey, where are the X-Men? And they said, we're at a stage right now where it's a different generation playing these games, and they don't even know who the X-Men are. That was and everyone just went, are you nuts? And again, it's part, and again, I think that's part of the reason why that game failed so dramatically.
Yeah.
Because everyone was just like, no, like, we need our dudes. Like, these are our mutants. We need them. So it's kind of, I think it's partially true, this whole like, you kill off Wolverine. So of course that's what he goes to do. He goes to find a new Wolverine. And this is where things get like out of control and amazing. And I'm pretty sure Alice heard me like squeal and gasp.
Oh, I was screaming right along with you.
Yeah, I think we all.
There were some great cameos.
The theater, we were lucky. We went to a pretty full theater and everybody was into it.
Yeah.
Like, it was pretty cool, right?
Yeah.
Like, even like, no Wolverine, no X-Men, no Marvel, right? Like, it's just, it's no Marvel versus Capcom. He's right. And it's funny how X-Men is back and so is Marvel versus Capcom. Surprise, surprise. Hang on. All right. So we're going to go through. Oh, go ahead.
No, I was like, do you have a list already, or are we just going to jump around?
Oh, we got this. Okay. So here are some of the cameos that we see. We see all these different Wolverines.
Yeah.
Through all the different universes as he's popping through to find the right one for him. To help save his universe.
Yes.
This is amazing. As anyone who's followed me on Instagram, they know I have a special place in my heart for Patch. So to see a full-on Patch in Madripoor at the poker table, brilliant. I think we saw the back of that. I remember people being like, that's Daniel Radcliffe. That's Daniel Radcliffe as Wolverine. I was like, no, it's not.
But we did get someone else as Wolverine.
We did. We'll get to that one last.
Okay.
But that was so much fun. That was like, I gasped. I was like,
I did too.
This is the picture I picked for the comic book accurate Wolverine, the Short King himself, which was great. Because I do feel like they used this Wolverine as the basis for that with the black tank top.
Yeah.
Bar. I feel like this was the one. I loved this, right?
They made him so short though. He looked like he was like 4'11". I don't know. I was
Oh,
like,
I think they made him extra short just to shit on guys like me. I'm sure of it. I felt so trolled, and I was like, "Oh, I deserve every minute of this." Tony Johnson, I still can't get comic accurate Wolverine out of my mind. Neither can I. But you're right. He was. I think he's
he's
supposed to be like 5'3", 5'4", and you're right. They made him like a hobbit. Like it was.
yeah. Deadpool going.
Yeah. Like he said it was great. Hey, little guy. Whoa.
Yeah.
Even calling him comic book accurate Wolverine. I was just like, come on. Like,
Dang.
so good. This one got a quick pop for me too. This is Old Man Logan. Saw him on the porch.
Yep, with the shotgun.
With the shotgun. Brilliant. Love it. This one too was one I was never expecting to see in live action and comic book accurate, even with the giant freaking hair and sideburns. One hand, the Age of Apocalypse Wolverine.
Great environment for that one as well. I noticed that, they were doing obviously like accurate environments for each universe, but this one caught my eye because it looked great.
Yes, right. And even still, like, this still caught me off guard. Like, I still should have been like, I should have known right off the bat where we were. And because they were playing Power of Love from Back to the Future, it was just like everything was throwing me off. So I fell for every cameo, like every little Easter egg and every like nod. I fell for it, and I was like, "Oh my god, I'm not prepared for what I'm about to see." Right? Hugh is Age of Apocalypse Wolverine. Yeah, it did. Tony Johnson, it did work so well. I loved it. Beautiful. I like. I honestly can't wait to see it again just for all of these. It's so good. The John Byrne classic Wolverine. The way when he came out of the again, he's doing all these classic costumes. This is almost like he was playing the best of the greatest hits of Wolverine.
Yep.
With Hugh Jackman and all the costumes we've ever wanted to see him in.
100%.
This was this movie's way of being like, we're going to give you everything you ever wanted from Wolverine that you always asked for and never got. And we're just going to deliver it to you in an 8-minute montage.
Yeah.
Enjoy. Like, this is for you. This is for the fans. So even when he did this and when he had the brown costume, of course, it was just like, again, your heart just sinks because you're like, oh my God, finally. And then when he pops the claws and you see the reflection of Hulk, just like the classic cover, it was like, man, we don't deserve this as fans. Like, it was so good. It was so good.
It was.
Great Hulk cameo. Again, you don't need much. Yep. That was it. I still hope MCU gives us Hulk versus Wolverine, like just a movie of that at some point in Canada.
Yeah.
Everything's got to be in Canada. Come on, just Canada. And this was like the one that totally caught me off guard too, which I was surprised because it's a depiction of a crucifixion. So I was, you never know how corporations are going to react to this. But they did it, and they did it like in a wild way too, with all the skulls.
Yeah.
And they even matched the colors to this.
Yep.
And did this nice big turnaround. Man, I lost my mind. My mind.
It was really cool.
It was like, hey, buddy, are you okay?
I'm like, take him off the cross. Take him off. Like, you don't have to take him, but just, we could help him out a little.
But again, all these nods to these classic covers and moments and costumes. Bless this man's heart for doing it all. Right? And I think that's all of them. Yeah, I can lower this down. But yeah, let's get into that cameo. Alice, take me through the last Wolverine that we get before we get to like the Wolverine that we're gonna hang with the rest of the movie.
Yeah. Well, feel free to supplement, because I don't know if this is set in a specific universe or if it was just a cameo for the sake of a cameo. But we pop into a universe. Wolverine is fixing up his motorcycle. Back to us, And at first, because we've seen so many Hugh Jackmans, like we're just like it's Hugh Jackman, right? I at least I didn't really think so much of it. I was like,
same here.
Another Wolverine, And Deadpool's walking closer to this Wolverine. He's talking to him as he always is, and he turns and he does like like a slow turn. And at first, I was like, whoa, that's not Hugh Jackman. And then I was like, whoa, that's Henry Cavill.
Which was like amazing. It was beautiful. It was shocking.
Yeah. And I can't remember if I'm making this up because I watched so many interviews afterwards, or if this was in the film. Did they say it was Henry Cavill? Like, did Deadpool make a comment? I can't remember if it
He didn't
was in
make a
the
comment
interview.
that it was Henry Cavill, but he did say like, "Hey, come with me, and we'll treat you way better than the gang across the street."
Yeah, he did. Yeah.
Right?
It was so good.
It was so good. I was like, "Oh man," because yeah, everyone knows how Henry Cavill got treated there, and just to see, like, and there was all the rumors for the longest time that like, oh, Henry Cavill's going to play Wolverine in the MC universe. How cool would that be if it was Henry Cavill? And of course, me being me, I was like, he's too tall. He's beautiful.
I mean, Hugh Jackman's also really tall, though.
He is, but I also thought too, I was like, man, this is a really tall ass Wolverine.
He's great though, so I'm not complaining.
But you get used to him as Wolverine because again, you lose the fact that he's tall because he portrays the character so well. Does that make sense? Yeah. You kind of forget the minutiae of like these, you could say being short is an important detail, and it is to me sometimes. Because I was
Look, he has a short torso. I don't know if you watched the Jimmy Kimmel one, but he has a short torso, so he's half Wolverine.
That's right. He's got, but again, like all those, like again, every waist up shot, and we'll talk about that later too. Of Hugh Jackman is like the dude always looks so dang good. Like bless his heart. And then of course, he finds his really drunk Wolverine. We get to that last Wolverine. But man, sorry, go back to Henry Cavill for a hot second. That had to be one of the biggest shockers of the show for me.
Yeah.
Just because that is one where I was like, I did not see that coming at all. Right? Like
that wasn't my biggest one. We'll get to that because we're going chronological order, but it really does top it. And it was one of the first ones. Like we're still fairly early on in the movie, and we've had some, like some cameos that are kind of expected, like Happy Hogan, and then all these like Easter eggs for other versions of Wolverine, which again is also kind of expected. But like Henry Cavill is the first big face because. Again, spoiler, there will be more, but he was like one of the first ones to be like, oh my god, it's like so and so, and you're like, wow, like, is this where the budget went for the film?
Yeah. it might have. It very well might have. Then he gets to his very drunk Wolverine. He's got whiskey dick claws. He can't quite pop them. I think we saw that in the trailer too for some reason. That joke, and they kind of go through it like, hey, you're just going to come with me. Like, you're just going to have to be my guy, and we're just going to have to deal with it. And as they're even like fighting in the bar, he's like, oh, nice pajamas under there.
Yeah.
Right. Which was like that first big hint of like, okay, this is our dude. Like, we know.
Also, Deadpool was like, you're the only one who has not tried to kill me yet. Because throughout this whole montage is just Wolverine's killing Deadpool as much as they can. And this one is just too drunk to fully comprehend what's happening.
Yeah, it's right. And that again, super awesome. I love it when you see just Wolverine shining up the bar, like those old wooden bars and stuff like that. I always love those visuals. For some reason, it just works for me. And yeah, like again, he's just like, no, he's just like, I just don't like, this is a Wolverine. He's defeated. He's deflated. He's dealt with a lot of loss, and he's done.
Yeah. But we don't know why yet.
Right. They always linger at that. And there's always like, that little bit. So he takes that Wolverine back to the TVA.
And Wolverine proceeds to just be blackout on the ground. So really,
Right. Yeah, because he passed out.
Yeah. He's just on the floor.
Yeah.
And Deadpool is monologuing as he always does.
He brings him back saying like, okay, I got a Wolverine. Give me my universe back.
Yeah.
And that's when we find out the nefarious plan of this
Paradox.
Yeah, from Mr. Paradox, right? So we find out like there's a nefarious plan here, and he's out to actually destroy and trim universes.
Yes.
But the TVA, the actual TVA, doesn't know what he's up to. So this is like this weird underbelly, greedy. It's like almost like a corporate villain, like a very corporate villain.
Yeah. Yeah. And
Right.
that's what I was saying though, and like it is a self-contained story. Yes, it's the TVA, but they've kind of sectioned off this little bit for Deadpool, which I appreciate because it means that you don't really have to know too much going in.
Right.
But you still get all the good, juicy bits if you do know what's happening.
Right. Which again, if I wasn't sure if this was a dig at Disney or not, for when
Yeah.
Disney gets something and then they just start over again and kill things and
Yeah.
start over again. So I was always like,
Yeah.
I wonder. And then of course they get Wolverine wakes up. He goes out. He goes after Mr. Paradox.
Yes.
And then that's when they get transported to the end of time.
Yeah, to the void.
To the void. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
End of time is something else. I'm just trying to always remember. But yeah, they go to the void where we see, and then again, the void, just as in Loki, tons of Easter eggs.
Yeah. We're when the pictures come out, we're gonna have to like look into it closer because there's obviously no pictures right now.
Right.
Because I was saying coming out of the cinema, I was like, we missed stuff. Like there was so many things in the background. Like we have to go check it out. Like after.
Yeah, there's a CN Tower shows up very clearly. Like notice that from Toronto. I was like, oh, that's
the
cool.
20th Century Fox logo buried in the sand.
Yes, and oh, hang on, and I have a picture for this one. Hang on, I think this shield, this Captain America shield from Secret Empire is also in the sand. So the Hail Hydra cap existed at some point, somewhere, somehow.
Yeah. Well, I mean, this is the void, right? Every version of every universe, there's a potential to be here.
Correct. And this is where we get a lot of swerves. Just a lot of cool stuff. But I think this is also the big first Wolverine versus Deadpool fight.
Yes.
This is not the last one.
No.
But this is the
this
first
is like
one.
Do you know what the vibes gave off? It's like those what is this genre when like a family is like in a camper van and they're like going somewhere but they're fighting the whole way. Like I feel like this is like a niche subgenre of like holiday film that comes out once every like 5 years. There's like a film like that. I'm like, that was what this was. Is like they're on a journey going somewhere and fighting the whole way.
Yes. Yeah.
And there's music,
It's a road trip movie. It's 100% a road trip movie. Man, I never even.
Great soundtrack.
Oh man, and they're always like these are also great soundtracks all the time. A little bummed out we didn't get another Deadpool rap.
Yeah.
At the credits. But I mean, here we are. It's fine. Whatever. And when they're actually done fighting, by the way, folks, awesome. All the fight scenes in this are still awesome and they're brutal.
Yes.
You made a really good point last night after we saw the movie of Deadpool healing a little faster than usual.
Yeah, they're just like, let's just cut to the chase. We all know Deadpool heals. We all know Wolverine heals. We'll just cut straight to the fact that they're like back up again. Yeah, it was like they would get hit and they wouldn't even go down at that point. Sometimes they were just like, yeah, we'll take it. Even though like clearly they probably would have been out for the count for a little bit.
Right.
Yeah.
There's one beautiful shot from the first fight in the void where Wolverine's been filled up with bullets and you kind of see Wolverine or Deadpool between his legs, like the camera's
the classic movie cover female. Usually it's like a female leg standing
or
there.
It's from old Western movies.
Oh,
when they're about to do the draw, right?
Ooh, yeah.
And then all those bullets come popping out of Wolverine, and then one comes out of his mouth.
Yeah, and he like spits it. Oh. So
again, it's just this movie's so cool.
Yes,
I love it. And then the 100%. Fight, it's so good. And then the fight ends because it gets interrupted. And this is another major swerve
Yes,
in
this
the movie.
was my biggest one. I think I screamed so loud
You did.
when I was like, oh!
You did. I actually found the reference from the comics of what we kind of got. So this is Dark Ages Cap. And I fell for this hook, line, and sinker.
Yeah. Well, okay, so to start off, for anyone who hasn't watched the film, there's a hooded guy. We don't see his face yet, and he's like sitting on this structure, and he kind of like talks him down. They're like, like if you fight, like the void will eat you up, like we got to work together. And so like we're like, who's this hooded guy? Because we see him in the trailer, right? We see the hood in the trailer. We're like, who's this guy? Who's this guy? And he like, there's like Mad Max style trucks coming in through the desert, and so he like takes off his hood, and it's Chris Evans.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh my god, it's Chris Evans. Oh, well, I'm like, oh my god, it's Chris Evans. And then we're like, well, we've seen all this Captain America stuff, right? This is clearly some kind of Captain America.
Yes.
Because also that's all the films lately. You're like, but in my head, and I told Ryan this, I was like, that's a weird looking Captain America. Like, he's a little small. But I didn't think anything of it. And then we go through, a whole sequence where they're fighting off these Mad Max people. Sabretooth is there, gets beheaded.
Yeah, Sabretooth, Toad.
Yep.
Pyro, Lady Deathstrike. Well, I think Lady Deathstrike we see later, but
later, yeah. But there's some good cameos there as well. But then again, I keep saying Chris Evans because at this point, Captain America is like gearing up for a fight, and you think he's about to like. Even Deadpool is like, say the line, Avengers Assemble.
And he does the superhero landing. He does the Captain America landing.
And then he shoots up into the sky. You realize it's fucking Johnny.
And again, our crowd totally popped when that happened because it was like, oh, of course, there it is. Because, and again, they did the swerve so beautiful because by the time I was like, oh, it is Cap, because he had like the red gloves on, with, like underneath the cloak and wearing the blue and with the white, and I was like, oh yeah, okay. And all of a sudden, and I thought too, it was going to be like, he's going to say Avengers Assemble. Yeah. And it was like flame on, like, what is happening? And then what is also great, another good Fantastic Four references in there as well. All those crazy cars that are pulling up and surrounding them. One is the floating bathtub Fantastic Car. And something that I was telling Alice after the movie as well is that it makes the same noise as the 1960s cartoon, which had me a little embarrassed because it was like, I knew right away. I was like, oh, it's the old cartoon noise. This is great. And it was, and it looked cool. Like, I always thought it looked dumb, but then all of a sudden seeing it in live action, I was like, oh, that's actually kind of cool. Right. It's got that retro future again, that look to it. So good. It was yes, Tony. It was a fantastic misdirect. It was really good. And
it was very good.
Yeah. And then that's where, we get Wolverine versus Sabretooth.
Yes. Well,
again,
barely.
They kind of did it like an old samurai movie, right?
Yeah.
Where it was like the two race at each other, and then all of a sudden, one drops, one doesn't. And of course, there's a lot of beheading in this movie, by the way. Just to point out, there's a lot.
Or not even just beheading, but like just straight like kill shots. You know what I mean? Like, a lot of the time, I think probably to save a bit of time because there was so much going on in the film, like people will just run through other characters. And also, I was telling Ryan is that I believe they kill them off quickly because that way, like, they can't bring them back because they're dead, so you don't have to write like why plot-wise they didn't show up again. So they just kill them off really quickly.
Right? Yeah. Like, no, and that makes total sense to do that. It makes so much more sense. So of course they end up going and getting taken with Johnny Storm.
Yep.
Off to the base. We don't know who. Well, we know because we've seen the trailers. We know they're going to go see Cassandra Nova.
Yeah.
But
the giant Ant-Man is the
giant man.
The giant man. The giant Ant-Man is the, what do you call it? Like the lair?
It's the lair. Yeah. It's like a fence. and then they hang out inside his head, like in his body. Like it's cool.
I like the fact that his skull was in there, because at first you're like, oh, is it just the suit? But the mask lifts up and you're like, no, this was Ant-Man.
Yeah, because the skull is still there.
Yes, yeah.
So cool. It was really cool. There's a part of me that was like, man, if I was a kid, I would want that play set.
Oh yeah.
Like that should be a Lego set. And if it does become one, I will get it. It was so cool. But I do love how they had put Cassandra Nova in like Xavier's chair from like X-Men 2.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, and I mean, I actually didn't watch many trailers, so I didn't know who the villain was. I don't know if I told you this. I didn't know who the villain was. I was really keeping it down low. I was like, I know I'm going to watch the film no matter what, so let me just keep it quiet. And so I was like, oh my God, it's Charles Xavier. Because they have a back shot of like a person, a bold person rolling in on a wheelchair. And I'm like, oh my God, it's Charles Xavier. And then I was like, no, it's not.
Nope, it's his twin sister.
Yeah.
Right? And she's like, and that's from like the new X-Men run, the Grant Morrison, Frank Quietly run. Again, she's the one that destroyed Genosha originally in the comics that we saw in X-Men 97. That was her planning and her doing in the comics. But we got her, we finally got our first Cassandra Nova really outside of the comics, I think, ever. Anyone in the comments or in the chat, correct me if I'm wrong on that. But she was great. And again too, they matched her costume and outfit straight, because hers is not even really a costume, it's an outfit.
Yeah.
And her outfit pretty much matched her first appearance in the comics, and it was great. Yeah. Oh, Dartharian's like, so weird to think she's been around for 20 years. That's yeah. So that doesn't feel Jesus, don't do that. No time. I can't can't do that. My brain can't comprehend. I can't do it. But they're about to, so they end up having like almost like a little, not necessarily a fight, but we actually get to see how dangerous Cassandra Nova is.
She gets her villain monologue, I like to say, every villain gets a good monologue in. And I will say, I think the actress did a phenomenal job playing Cassandra.
Yeah.
She's like a really great type of creepy in like not an overtly like I'm a psychopath, like I'm like, I don't know, she is a psychopath, but the acting does not give off this feeling of like I'm crazy, like Joker style, kooky, like weird, but just like really cold. Like it was really good.
Yeah. No, yeah. Like she was great. And just even how they would show her using her powers where she sticks her hand
so
somebody's like, because again, that looks just like out of the comics, and they translated it so well with the fingers coming out of the sockets and the nostrils, and like they're scooping around, and I was like, oh my God, this is wild. Like, it's so good. But you're right, she was great. When she starts getting her own action figure, I will definitely be getting it. I will need it. Marvel Legends team, if you end up watching this episode, make it happen. So they go from kind of like that. They get Johnny Storm gets himself killed in a really
killed.
Yeah, that's a right. They came with receipts, right? King Panther, just a heads up, King Panther, we're like going like super heavy into spoilers. So I know you want to talk comics. Yes, 3 things to mention. The Mondo 1/6 Buzz Off. Yes. Marvel Legends Crystal and Lockjaw. Yes. HasLab Rattler. Yes. Can you educate how awesome Dragon Man from Legends is going to be? It's going to be amazing, but we're going to get Panther. We're going to get more into that on Toy Anxiety on Tuesday. But I'm glad you brought this up, because I just also want to make sure that we're talking spoilers. I don't want anything spoiled for you. Yes. Sorry. Johnny Storm gets himself killed. I don't care what anyone says. Yeah.
I don't know. Do you know what? I genuinely got a little bit angry while I was watching that, which I think means they did a great job story-wise. Because I was like, I am such a fan of Deadpool. Like, usually everything he does, it's like, okay, it's Deadpool. it's Deadpool. But in that monologue where he was like saying that Johnny had said these things, I was getting like a little bit upset. I was like, fucking Wade Wilson, shut the fuck up. Like, what are you doing? Like, oh my god, we just got Johnny. Like, what are you doing? And then, you know, she like de-skins him.
Right.
Cassandra de-skins him.
That just falls apart. It was
yeah.
But it's even funny too, because even while he's doing that, even like Wolverine's like, what the hell are you doing? Like, like it's like everyone was doing the same thing around him. It was really funny, and that's when we also learned that they're going to be sacrificed to the Void.
Yeah. Well, that's also where we learn, right, that Deadpools are dime a dozen, but Wolverine is the only one who's in the Void right now. The only Wolverine.
Oh yeah, like,
which is really interesting, right?
And the Void is filled with Deadpools.
Yeah. So it's interesting. It's like, oh, is Wolverine the actual Marvel Jesus? Like, he's perfect. So like he like,
and he's
does
flawed.
not have. Yeah.
Right? Like well, I guess they're all flawed, but I mean, like, but you're right. Like, yeah, Wolverine is more of that reluctant hero than like anybody else. And yeah, I kind of forgot about that. Yeah, like Wolverine's, you're rare.
Yeah, because in every other universe, he's good enough that he hasn't been put into the Void, but this one, you know, made it to the Void. Which says
right. And so, but they do manage to. How do they escape again?
There's like this giant foot that rockets off. So the what do you call it? What's that monster in the Void? There's like a name for it. I forgot what it's called.
I can't remember either. Someone in the chat, Dartherian or Tony, you will probably know.
It like eats everything.
Yes. But yeah, it was a sentinel leg.
Yeah. That so while everyone's scrambling from that monster that eats things in the Void, they like flew off in a very Looney Tunes fashion, which I completely believe it was literally like a Looney Tunes. I'm sure there's a shot that was exactly that.
Yeah. No, it's funny because I thought like even how they landed from it.
Yeah.
Like where they just kind of bounce. I was like, oh, okay.
Yep.
we got some cartoon physics going on here. That's okay. And man, it was that I did love, and that's kind of where we get which happens first. Dogpool
shows up over the horizon, and then
Nice Pool. That's it.
Yeah. Which is just Ryan Reynolds with long hair and a really shiny suit.
Yes, he's just being overtly creepy nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But only for Deadpool, because if this was a normal person, it wouldn't have even been creepy. Like, it would have just been like a normal person. But for Deadpool, it's like creepy nice.
You're right. Yeah. Like, you're right. Yes. Because I think if we don't see Ryan Reynolds how we usually see him, even like in interviews, it would be like, who is this weirdo? What is happening?
Yeah.
Right. But he was great too. Like that was like, so we're getting our first Deadpool, and they kind of even say too, like, oh no, nobody's nice. I'm the only nice one.
Yeah.
And he's like,
which is also interesting.
Yeah. And he's like, and Lady Pool, like, wait till you meet her. She's not nice at all.
Yeah.
Right.
And that like there are many, many Deadpools in the Void.
Yes. Yeah. Right. Which gives him that feeling again of not being special.
Yep.
Right. Like it's.
Yeah. And then Nice Pool is like, look, I'll offer you my car. Was it Betty? Betty the car?
Yeah, something. Yeah. Something like that.
Yeah, I think so. I think it was Betty. And so they drive off and off continues their road trip.
Honda Civic?
Yeah.
Right. But yeah, they do drive off. And then this is where we get our next big fight.
Yes.
Between the two. And this is where things get serious again, because they're in the car and Wade's just being annoying, and Wolverine's kind of like, yo, you gotta like shut up. And then he kind of like lets him know, like, you're a loser and this is why. And it says some very like hurtful but maybe honest
Yeah,
Real.
super
Yeah.
real.
That's it. That's the word. Real. When shit got real. Like, and it had him be quiet. And again, this is where this movie feels more serious
Yeah.
because you do get these real moments where even like Deadpool is just like, I got nothing to even say to that.
Yeah.
Right. You
Yeah.
feel bad for him and you're just like,
Yeah.
God damn, man, what's happening? And he's like, you got nothing to say. He's like, I'm going to kick your ass. and then we get like,
But he has nothing to like. He could only attack him. Like the merc with a mouth had nothing to say. You know, I feel like that's where like the Deadpool humor, but then moments of like real kind of emotion, which you don't really see with
right.
Deadpool.
Like, and if, oh man. And then even when he goes quiet too, and Wolverine's just like, what? Aren't you the mouth? You got nothing to
Mm,
say, right? Like, it was just like,
yeah.
oh man, this is rough. This is
Yeah.
rough. Like, and it did feel heavy. Like, even just watching
Yeah.
it was like, man, what the hell, right? And this is again too where I sometimes wonder if like this is where Ryan Reynolds gets a little like self-reflective in this, in some of
Self-appreciative.
these, a little bit, but that's a Canadian trademark where it's like that weird sense of humor where we're a bit self-deprecating and I feel like that's where that kind of comes from. But I think we were talking about this right before we started too, and we were saying, I was saying how, they keep bringing up how, right, like, he's like, Deadpool's like, I'm a one-trick pony. There's all of this, and it kind of had me thinking when I got home about how people always say Ryan Reynolds just plays Ryan Reynolds. Everything just sounds like Deadpool. And I wonder if that's got something to do with it too. If we're, he sees all this stuff too. He probably hears it, and maybe it does hurt. And this is his way of kind of dealing with it by like calling it out and putting it in there. So, heavy, like you said, real. Yeah, you nailed it. That's the best way to put that scene. And it's great because it feels real.
Yeah.
It's, again, like we're dealing with two, like, again, Hugh Jackman is a master craft actor. So to get him to do something like that, it's amazing. Right. And then we get that fight in the car because he's like, I'm going to kick your ass. And they fight. And it's amazing because it's to the soundtrack of Grease.
Yeah.
And that got me like totally ramped up because you needed that fight to break up that moment.
Yeah.
Because it makes
to
you
like lighten the mood back up to
it's weird
Deadpool
how it's like
level.
But it's funny how it's like it's a bloody shoot and stab fight in a car that lightens the mood. Like,
Yeah.
and again, crazy violent because it's just you see a lot of close up of stabbing, and again, there's just a lot of shooting and yelling and and again, it's just like any like when like two best friends or two brothers fight and they get in, or like in Step Brothers and they do that, they get that fist fight and then they stop fighting and they take a deep breath and go, okay, now we're best friends. That's kind of what this was, but on that, like you said, on that Deadpool level, right? The only way they can do it, stabbing, punching, shooting.
Right? Yeah. And then they both pass out. And someone, we don't know who, drives them to like a little base somewhere else. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Tied up in the seatbelt.
Belts. So
seatbelts, yeah. And then they wake up in. Is that the teeth bed? That's from Doctor Strange, no?
I just thought it was a T-Rex head.
Oh, is that because I was like, where have I seen that before? Was that just the one trailer that I watched? Or I feel like I've seen that somewhere
Yes, else. It was in one of the trailers, but like for like a clip, and no one had any understanding of what was going on.
Right.
And I think even I was like, I saw that first clip and I was like, I wonder if they're in the Savage Land. Because that's where dinosaurs roam. So I was like, oh, I wonder if that's where they are. And then, but that turned out to not be the case at all. Now they're at a different group's base.
Yeah. And then they reveal the group.
Yes. Go for it.
Okay. So I think the first one who walks in, I can't remember, was it the girl or the guy who first walks in?
It was It was the girl.
Yeah, so Elektra walks in. But it's also Jennifer. Yeah, Jennifer Elektra walks in. She doesn't look a day older. In fact, she looks better. I feel like she looks even better. I don't know how they did it. She looks amazing. The costume, amazing. She's got her, what did they even call them? They're like daggers, but they're like tridents, you know? Oh,
yeah. Like Raphael from Ninja Turtles.
Yes. So good. And you're like, oh my God. Oh my gosh. And then the second person just walks in right after. And it's like,
you're like, again, he looks great too.
He does. I don't know what they're doing in the costume department or in the CG or whatever, but they're looking good.
Yeah, but Wesley Snipes has been aging very well as well.
Oh yeah. And then the next person comes in. Oh, sorry, you cut out there.
Right. Yes.
Hello? Can you hear me?
Nope. Am I here? Am I back?
Yes, you are back.
Yes. Yeah, no, go ahead. Keep going.
Oh yeah. And then the third person walks in. And it's Gambit. But it's Channing Tatum as Gambit.
This is hang on. So for anyone who doesn't know the history of this Channing Tatum as Gambit, it was right. Tatum finally got to Gambit. He's been pitching and trying to get this movie to go for years. And the last news that we got about it, I went to track it down. It got, man, after this has happened, typing in Channing Tatum Gambit gives you all nothing but Wolverine Deadpool. So I guess the spoilers are out there if you're looking for them. But this was like the last thing I could find from IGN about Edgar Wright turning down the Channing Tatum Gambit movie. Right? So there's been a long history of this, of him, the pitches and directors and start and goes. This would have been X-Men Fox's Ghostbusters 3 in the 90s. Yeah. It's always, someone's always saying, yeah, it's happening. Never happened. We finally, I shouldn't say, I guess we did finally get it, but more importantly, Channing Tatum got it and he got his moment. And I was like, there's a part of me that just felt super happy for him. Here's the only thing that bums me out about it. His costume was so good that now when they bring him into the MCU, if they have him wear that costume, it's just going to come off looking like Deadpool. Like a Deadpool joke. Right? Because even he had the perfect jacket with all the right collar and trim and the half weird mask thing that Gambit wears and the pink and the everything. And man, his voice was so good.
But they constantly made jokes about how we couldn't understand what he was saying, or like Deadpool couldn't understand what he was saying. And it was half true. Because like I was like really focusing. I was like, some of the sentences were like, oh yeah, I hear it. But some of them I was like, what did he say?
Yeah, right. Right? Like we got to get AJ back on the show, who was the voice of Gambit in X-Men 97. Because I'm sure he'll do it somewhere, but I really hope I want to hear his take on Channing Tatum's take on the voice.
Yeah.
Because again, but it was so fun. It was, I don't know, it made me super happy. And it just made me giggly. Just how he like, hey, those are just the cards that were dealt for me. He's doing all the lines. He's doing all the classic Gambit lines. And it just was like, this is so good. Right. And thank God X-Men 97 came out, because I think people would have been way more. Well, I don't know if that's true. I don't know. It's hard to say if people would still be confused if they didn't watch X-Men 97. But even even when they do, I'm going to jump ahead a little bit, because they do that big fight with this team against Cassandra Nova's team. And there's a point where everybody looked like they were about to die. And I was waiting for Channing Tatum to go, the name's Gambit. Remember it. Like I was waiting for it. But it didn't happen. Oh well.
But yeah, well, that's the thing though, because I noted that. I was like, we did not see them die on screen, which means they can come back.
Correct.
That's how it
Oh,
works.
you're right. That
Yeah.
is how it works.
Yeah.
You are 100% correct. Holy shit.
Yeah.
Okay,
I was like, I see you. I see you keeping the options open because everyone else died very clearly. And I mean, these days, even if they die on screen, you can always bring them back. But like, there's a difference when you kill them on screen and then you just versus you just leave it ambiguous. Because I feel like that's a really big sign that they're considering doing other things.
Yeah. Well, X-Men 3 Juggernaut is very clearly dead.
Oh yeah,
and that's
he's
okay.
dead.
That's okay. But wait, one more person came into the room. We got X-23.
Oh, 23.
Right?
Daphne. He's all grown up now.
Yeah, straight from the set of The Acolyte. Daphne Keene. I always forget her last name. Daphne Keene. She came back. Yeah, and she looks awesome.
Yep.
Right. I think. Yes. Yes. Her name is Laura. So it'd be her not superhero name, Laura Kinney, I believe, in the comics. So they kind of brought that in. I love that she brought up the old pink glasses for the final fight as well.
Still got it. Yeah.
Still got it. It did have me go, God, yeah. If they bring her back too, like I said, if they ever decide they're going to do a Deadpool 4 or something else in that universe, bring her back. Bring them all back. Just do it. It'll be cool.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
It'll be super fun. But yeah, they go. So she's pretty much kind of like, at this point, Deadpool's kind of like, hey, let's do this. We could all get together. She'll get us back to, my proper dimension, and then everyone will be cool, and there'll be no more her, and we're fine. And Wolverine's just like, finds the booze, and he's just like, no, this is bullshit. Why are we doing this? But there's another great scene, which I'm glad they put another more serious scene, because we get Wolverine drinking by himself by the fire. Again, this is one of those very classic X-Men moments of like where Wolverine's just pushing everyone away, keeping everyone at arm's length. And of course you get like one of the young mutants to come up and be like, hey, like she kind of gives him that same talk that she gave, that the young X-23 gave in Logan, of like, you were never the right guy. Right? Like, why? Like, you never were.
Also, we hear a little bit more about why he's so convinced he's like, just nothing, a deadbeat. He talks about, I can't remember which exactly parts he revealed, but he was like, they're all dead. Like the X-Men are dead, right?
Yeah.
He's like, I was out drinking and I went back and they were all dead by the time I got back.
Yeah. He's doing his too cool for school. Like, I don't do team stuff.
Yeah.
And he talks about how he keeps the costume and wears it because that's what he has to remember them by. Because he said, Scott always wanted me to wear this.
Yeah. And I never would because I thought it looked silly,
Yeah. And I was just like, damn, this is meat. This is good. This is good. And again, this is another, like, it's funny how this works, right? I feel like Spider-Verse does the same thing to me, where it's like the more serious stuff is like always ends up being my favorite. The cake is always better than the icing, I feel. And this is another one of those cases where this happens, and it's just, you're right. Like, this is just, it's so good. And that's, again, you need these moments of clarity for Wolverine to kind of like, as he talks about it, it gets him to kind of like open up and just be like, well, then, they're all in the car, but we don't know that we all think he actually stayed behind. Well, we didn't, but I mean, we did.
Yeah, because we see the car and we see everyone in it, but we do not see Logan in it.
Right. So we just assume that he stayed back.
Yeah.
And they go after Cassandra Nova in a really cool way.
And they're like, we're going to get Juggernaut's helmet.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, because Juggernaut's working for Cassandra, and they're like, well, Magneto's dead, and his helmet is gone because Cassandra killed him. So the only one we can use is Juggernaut, so we're going to need to go grab that. And they were like, did they give them another name? The others, like, X-23 and Elektra and Blade and Gambit were like, we'll be distraction, like we'll open the way, and then you two go after Cassandra.
Right. Yes. And they're like, and again, this fight was awesome because we got to see Gambit do some really cool shit.
Yeah.
And I'm always going to be about the Gambit stuff. So I even love how they just pull up in this Honda Civic. And then like, that's when you like, again, like the base has like everybody, like that's where we got like X3 Juggernaut. We got Lady Deathstrike from X2, all these original actors, right? Like all coming back to play these villains. It's always super cool to see everybody just be together again and kind of actually see more of it. Like it was just, it's surreal in its own weird way of just like, it's nostalgic, but at the same time, you're like, this is fun. This is okay. This is actually kind of cool. And then, we get that fight. And now I'm trying to remember how because it was X-23 versus Juggernaut.
Yep. She cuts his ankles. And this is what we were saying where these fights are fast, right? Like it's not blow, blow, blow. It's almost like usually it's like one blow maybe, and then a second blow, and then it's usually over because there's just too many characters for them to be giving them all one-on-one extended fights. So like X-23 just cuts through Juggernaut like he's nothing, like de-ankles him, and he just like falls over, and she grabs the helmet, right? She stuffs it in her bag, and obviously everyone else is fighting. I don't know. I don't think we could go through every single detail. This podcast would be like 5 hours long.
Right.
But yeah, Gambit had amazing CG for his like the VFX for his cards. Like he's got his like what do they call it? Like a baton. I don't know if there's a canonical name for his stick, but
his staff.
Yeah,
right.
We get to see some of his powers.
And it looked great. The pink sparkly stuff just looks so good. They did a great job. And of course now it's like Cassandra Nova's like really going after now she's going after Wolverine, where the first time she stuck her hand inside Deadpool. Now she's doing it to Wolverine.
Yep. We're getting more Wolverine lore backstory.
Yes, about how they die. Like kind of like just he went in there and he was so raged, he started killing people. It's like, but just the bad ones. And he's like, no,
not even. Yeah.
Not even, right? Like it was bad. And then it's kind of fun because all of a sudden you see the veins coming up through her head as they start to disconnect, and the helmet's now on her.
Yeah.
And they're like, okay, you're powerless. So how about get us home?
Yeah. And then they're fighting over who gets to kill her.
Yes.
And then someone else steps in and he's like, psyche, you thought I will kill her. And Pyro shows up because what we failed to mention is that Pyro has been working for Paradox this whole time.
Oh, yes, that's right.
Yeah. Look, there's too much in the movie. We have to skip stuff, obviously.
Yeah.
But
like we haven't talked about them eating spam in a diner.
Yeah, look, I'm sure all of you who watch the film and who are going to watch the film will, you'll be able to enjoy the things that we haven't talked about. But yeah, so Pyro steps in. He's talking about how he's monologuing about how I've worked for you this whole time, blah blah blah, and then really funny. I can't remember if it was Wolverine or Deadpool knocks him out, and they're like, "Not everyone gets a monologue." And I'm like, "Ah!"
Yes. Yeah, that was awesome. I agree. Like that was a great way to just like kind of again, let's just move things along. Let's keep it going. Yeah. She kind of brings up like, oh, go ahead.
Tongue in cheek, like fourth wall breaking a little bit, and like we know this is what it is. We get it.
Oh, one of the best fourth wall jokes comes from earlier as well when they talk about like Daredevil's dead. And Daredevil from the Foxyverse, as we know, was played by Ben Affleck. So Jennifer Garner, like Elektra's just like, well, whatever.
Yeah.
What a dig. So good. I loved that. I think Cassandra Nova, what did she call it? Like some sort of like someone left a party trick.
Before that, they were fighting about who gets to kill her, right? And then Logan's like, I'm not going to, because if your brother knew that you existed, he would never let me live it down if I killed you. And I'm gonna be honest right here. I was a cynic in X-Men 97 as well. I was like, they need to just start killing people. They need to just start killing people. You have her in a helmet. She could. The only reason she hasn't killed you yet is because she's so dead set on monologuing. Like, look, if she really wanted to, she could have just de-skinned you guys 3 seconds flat into the thing, and the credits would have rolled, right? Like
Right.
that. And he was like, "I'm going to take the helmet off," and I was like, "No, okay, please stop." He's like, "Take the helmet off." I'm like, "Don't take the helmet off." And then they take the helmet off, and I'm like, "Oh, what is that? Why?" Of all the moments to gain a sense of morality.
Yeah, that's what X-Men does. They pick the worst times for that every time.
It's true. It's true. And then
Right?
she does do them. She does do them right, and she's like, "All right, you saved me, so I'm gonna get you a way out of the void." And she's like, "Someone left this thing," and she puts it on her finger, and we see that it's the Doctor Strange portal thingy. I don't know what it's called, but
Portal ringy thing.
yeah.
Yeah, and clearly she can do it.
She does the thing. She does the thing.
And it's great too. I love how it's like you got 3 seconds and they do the look at each other and race. Like,
yeah.
Which is super fun. Oh, a sling ring. Thank you, Tony Johnson. Yes.
The sling ring. This is why we need you guys.
Yes. And I love that whole race, and then they go through and they're back to Deadpool's world.
They're back at the car park of the car salesman dealership that Wade works at.
Yes, and Peter's there with that family from the test drive from earlier.
Yeah, they just sold the car, and then Wade and Logan promptly destroy it by landing on it.
Yes.
But it's really sweet because we have this short little moment where Peter's like, "You coming back?" and Wade is like, "Nah, I'm, I don't know the exact line he says, but to the tune of something of like, I'm doing things now, like I'm off to do something," and like Peter's just like so proud of him and we love Peter, so when we see Peter proud, we're like, yes, we're also proud,
No, it's true. We all love Peter. Like,
yeah.
Rob Delaney, who plays him, if you are not following his Instagram, you should be following it as well. It is so wholesome and fun and great and funny. He's so good. But yeah, they go through that, and then so they know where they have to go because they have to stop this dang universe-ending shredding machine, right?
Yeah, which we didn't even mention. So while this is happening, while they're in the void, Paradox has created a time ripper and is about to kill their universe, which is what he's doing, right? He's pruning off universes or universes that are set to decay naturally, but he's like, I'm gonna do a mercy kill and prune them off early because I think that's what we should be doing. And so they're trying to leave the void in order to stop him and this machine.
Right. Yes. So that's where they're kind of heading to. They get stopped because now another sling ring portal opens.
Yes.
Because now they're like, we need to stop these guys.
Yeah.
And they bring out first out comes Dogpool, which was great.
Well, no. First out comes Cassandra, right?
Right.
Yeah. So they're back at the train station which is a entryway to one of the TVA's, whatever you call a section of the TVA. And they're talking to Paradox, and then Cassandra shows up.
Yes.
And does the little hand thingy again, which is so cool and so disturbing at the same time. And she's like, actually, I've decided that I am, in fact, not a good person. I know it seemed like I was going to be a good person for a second there, but no. I am actually going to destroy all universes so that the void is the only one that remains. And I'm like, this is why you kill her.
Yeah, this
is why you kill her.
They're going to find out again why they should have killed Bastion. Trust me.
Yeah.
Sandra's the same deal. Right. And because she's going to go run off and do the thing with the universe shredder.
Yep.
That's when she gets the army of Deadpool core.
Well, so I was going to ask you this because I'm actually a bit confused about that. So we have the reveal, and there's like 100 Deadpools. Every Deadpool that you could think of is there. There's like Samurai Deadpool, Lady Deadpool, obviously Lady Pool, Baby Pool, like all of the pools are there. And I know the whole shtick is that Deadpool does whatever if he's paid, but like, what, she just offered them money in the void, or like she offered to like let them leave the void? Like, what motivated them to do that? Because I feel like it was a bit vague.
I don't think there was. They just, I can't. Yeah, I don't know
They were
what
just like, "We're
motivated
gonna
them.
stop you," and I was like, "Why? Since when does Deadpool care that much? Like, maybe some of you would care, but like, I feel like I feel like they didn't give a real explanation for why they were so dead set against stopping the time the universe ripper time ripper.
Yeah. Well, if we run into Ryan Reynolds this weekend, he's in Vancouver. We're gonna have to ask him.
We'll ask,
But no, there was some great cameos in that because some of them are from the comics. Headpool,
Yep.
right? Lady Deadpool,
Mm-hmm.
Kid Pool, Baby Pool. I believe the samurai and the cowboy are also from the comics.
Yep.
And then they just had a bunch of randoms, and of course, Nice Pool,
And then Dogpool, which is
and Dogpool.
What was Dogpool again? Mary Poppins? No, what was her name? What was?
No, you're right. Mary Poppins.
Yeah, something like that. I was like,
yeah, awesome. Did you see the thing about? Okay, hang on. I'm gonna sidetrack here for. Oh, okay. Cyberpool. Cyberpool was there as well. Yes.
Yes.
Thank you, Dartharian. Did you see the thing about the making of? And he's talking about having to put like this tuna thing in his mouth so that the dog would lick the inside of his mouth. And how he's just like, I'm just trying to hold it together, right? Like it's just that's it.
It was such an extended kiss. Like that's like one of the things they do for humor in Deadpool is just because like I think humor, like a certain type of humor, is a bell curve, right? Or like the opposite of a bell curve, where it's funny right at the beginning because it takes you off guard, and then you're like, okay, I get it. But then if you do it long enough, it comes back up to being like, oh god, okay, it's funny again.
Yeah, right. Like it's it is like it's. Yeah, because you're
and that dog was just kissing him for so long.
Yeah, because there's food in his mouth. Like it's so gross. But so funny. It's like, and kudos to Ryan Reynolds for going through all of it. Like, God bless him. That whole fight scene too, there was okay, this is where I get kind of like, because Lady Pool just starts like freaking shooting at him.
Nice Pool is there.
Nice Pool is there.
And we find out he's the only one that doesn't have regenerative abilities.
Right. And it's funny because Deadpool Prime, he assumed that he did, so he was using him as a shield, which was amazing.
It was so sad.
It was sad.
Nice Pool.
But man, it's one of those things where you're just like, what do you mean he doesn't have regenerative like powers? Oh God. Right, like it was great. I don't know if you noticed this, the backgrounds, like the set. Okay, so they went because they got blasted into Liefeld's shoes store, right?
Yeah.
This little dig at Liefeld for not being able to draw feet. Amazing. But did you notice like the set, the building on either side of it, they were like painted walls with the windows, like the windows were painted on the wall.
No, I didn't.
Like they weren't, like there was no depth, like it was painted, like the door and everything, so it looked like cardboard boxes that were painted to look like buildings.
What's the Easter egg of that?
I don't know if that's an Easter egg or if that's just me doing
doing
my job. Taking my work home with me.
No, I feel like that must be on purpose.
That has to be.
Like, I don't think that's where they like skimped on the budget. They were like, we don't have enough for another facade. Let's just paint it. Like, I don't think that's how that works, you know?
Yeah. It's but I was kind of curious. But again, we get that iconic, like a prayer moment coming out behind the hot dog stand.
Yeah. After they do the slow motion walk with the music, and they look badass. And then you can, if you want to go for the next moment, you can say it.
Okay, so this is where I lost my mind because we were all kind of waiting for it. We've seen the buckets, we've seen the toys, And that's when we were like, are they doing the mask? And all of a sudden it was like, he pulls it up like a hood and up, and they got the white eyes, just like Deadpool and stuff. And I was like, holy shit, this is perfect. Because at this point, he's lost
And the
his
mask
sleeves.
looked good.
It looked so good. And we get a very crazy, bloody fight scene of Wolverine and Deadpool versus the Deadpool Corps. Clearly, we don't see any of the children pools get killed. But they go through everyone else, and I love how it's like some of the Deadpools just kind of act like, "Oh no!" Like, yeah, it was really kind of fun to, like, when they're going through the bus.
Yeah, and then the windows get splattered.
Yeah, it was some of the windows from, I don't know if this threw you off. Some of the windows for me, when they shattered or got like bloodied, I was like, the VFX.
Yeah, it was a little bit like comical, like cartoonish.
Yeah, but I think that also could be on purpose,
right? Like sometimes I can't tell. I'm like, maybe.
Right. So I try not to nitpick it, but my brain just goes, "That's a note. That's not, like, we need to fix that."
Yeah.
Right. Some of the smoke was doing that to me too. And I remember we were talking about that after the movie, where it just felt like they were flickering. But again, that's us. We're probably like one of the few people that noticed that stuff, because it's just
I was like, I was telling Ryan, I was like, am I being like, is it because I'm used to seeing it now, or was it actually bad? Like, I can't tell sometimes.
Right. Yes, I'm with you on that. Right. Tony Johnson, Stan Lee was on the bus ad. I totally missed that.
Yeah, same. Did not.
I totally missed that.
Yeah.
I'm a terrible fan. Again, awesome fight. And then we see Baby Pool at the very end of the battle. Like, and it's funny too, because I honestly thought Deadpool was about to do something. He's like, "What are you laughing at?" Like I was like, "Oh no." The baby's gonna get it, but it was just the baby laughing at that. Everyone else still has regenerative powers.
Yep, and they all stand back up.
And they all stand back up.
All right, what's gonna happen? And then another Deadpool shows up. But it's Peter.
It's Peter in a Deadpool costume. But it's funny because
I don't know about you, but it was immediately clear to me that it was Peter. I don't know what it was.
First off, it's the shape of his body. And the area around his belly was exposed, and you could see the chain where he had his piercings from his nipples to his penis. So
good.
God, which, by the way, is one of the funniest things in the beginning of the film too, where he's like, "Yeah, you just put so fucking good."
That's the fun part.
That's the fun part, yeah. Right. And as soon as he takes the mask off and it's Peter, again, chat, this is where I need your help because I'm blanking. We find out Peter is like Scarlet Witch. He's the same in every universe.
Every Deadpool has a Peter.
Right? There's a term for it that Marvel uses. And now I can't remember what it is. Right? Where you're the same in every universe. That's what Peter is. So no matter what universe you're in, Peter is Peter.
And we love Peter.
And everybody loves Peter. A nexus. There it is.
Yeah.
Nexus being. See? God, I love this chat so much. Thank you. We find out he's a nexus being, and then that everyone loves Peter. And then so everyone's distracted. Like everyone's just done. They're done fighting because Peter's here.
Yeah.
Everyone wants to hang out with Peter because they clearly miss their Peter.
Yeah.
And,
so Logan and Deadpool just wander off, you know? He's like, "Enjoy my Peter."
Yeah. They go down to the subway. They try to stop Cassandra Nova. They get the whole like exposition of like, if you need to stop it, you have to go down there. You have to connect these two. But by the way, if one person connects them, that person doesn't come back out alive. The old, one of you's got to go. Both of you can't be here.
Yep.
And Wolverine.
And they're like, "You're going to actually be dead." Like,
yes.
You know, because we all know it's Deadpool, it's Wolverine. Like, they have the best regenerative abilities canon, right? Like, if anyone were to survive, it would be them. So we're like, oh yeah, they'll survive. But Paradox is like, no, this is it. Like, if you go in, you're dead. And so there's a weight to this moment, right? Because we're like, oh, like maybe they're serious.
Yeah. And then that's when they get to do the art. They're at the door, they're at the underneath it, and they're just, that's when they have that talk of I got to do this. You know, Wolverine like stating his case, like, this is why I'm gonna do this.
Yeah.
We're just
I
going
have
to.
no one. You
Yep.
have your world, which is his little Polaroid of his 9 people.
Right.
He's like, you should be going back to your people, your little world there.
Yeah.
Um,
The
it's
Deadpool
very
Deadpool's.
emotional.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Deadpool
It's actually very
Deadpool's
serious.
zips. He zips in there, closes the door, and he goes in, and then Wolverine, thank God he's got that adamantium skeleton to give him some weight. He just starts beating on that door.
Yeah.
He's going to get Deadpool out of there. And
Yeah. Well,
Deadpool's,
because Deadpool's trying to grab the
both sides.
antimatter and but we're realizing that he's not gonna make it. Like
Right.
Cassandra's already using the machine, like,
and we have a timer.
the universe is starting to fall apart, like it's unraveling, and Deadpool is not going to be able to reach the other it's one's antimatter and one is the opposite of antimatter.
Soup. I don't know. Matt turn?
He said it in the
Yeah, I know
film,
he
and
did
I don't
say
remember.
it.
But
Right.
anyways, he can't reach the other side, and everyone is watching, like, because there's security cameras. Paradox is watching, like, all the other people are watching, and they're like, he's not gonna make it.
Yeah, it's just matter.
Yeah, it's just matter. Two types of matter.
Yeah.
But
it was, yes. Yeah, Wolverine all of a sudden grabs Deadpool's other hand.
Yeah.
He also can't reach.
Yeah.
And pops the claws, which was brilliant.
Such a good detail. Yeah. And then promptly de-shirts himself.
De-shirts himself, right? And looks amazing. And again, we go back to the guy from the TVA who can't stop staring. Like, it's so good.
He's so oiled up. He's so oiled up. He's so, like, there are multiple shots of just his abs. They're like, we know what you want to see. Let me zoom in for you.
Yeah, they knew what the audience wanted, and they gave it to us.
Yeah.
But it was awesome that they did that, because it was just like, yep, this is a very typical Wolverine moment, because he always loses his shirt. And I love that, it's, of course, they win. They win. They're gone. We don't know what happened, because now the smoke's clear. We don't see anybody.
Yeah.
She's gone because it reversed it as well.
Yes. Yeah. So all 3 of them are gone. We're like, they're all dead, and we have this moment of quiet where I've already forgotten Paradox's actual name, but like him and his superior boss, who's found out that he's been doing all these things in secret, are like talking about how, Deadpool, and Wolverine, they're heroes. They sacrificed themselves to save us. They gave up everything, and weren't they just the most, the best kind of heroes?
Yeah.
and then out walks Deadpool and Wolverine.
Yeah, no, and it was like, yeah, because the whole thing is, it was 2 of us, not 1 of us. I love that. I was like, God, what?
I'm like, oh, yes, loopholes.
Yeah,
I see how it is.
Yeah, and again, it was great, and they give him the TVA jacket, which Hot Toys revealed is going to be a figure of shirtless Wolverine with the TVA jacket. And I was like, oh, how do I get this? Am I getting this? No, don't get it. You don't need it, Doel. I'm probably gonna get it. And it's, hang on. I want it. Yeah, everything kind of clears up, because they kind of, oh wait, yes, B-15, woman that runs the TVA.
Mm-hmm.
She does that whole thing that you would see at the end of like things like Wayne's World, or just like any other movie, where it's like, well, this is bad and he shouldn't be here, but you know what? You did good. So we're just going to let you have it, and we're going to let you go. It was totally one of those moments, and I'm here for it, and I'm cool with it. And he's like, do you want to get shawarma? Did you know that Avengers invented shawarma? Like, you want to go get that? And
But
So
I
what
will
it,
say, just a note before we move on from that, though, is I don't know if this was significant or if I'm overthinking it, but like I feel like people have been referring to Wolverine as Wolverine for most of the film, especially the people who don't know him. But in that moment, she referred to him as Logan, right?
ooh,
Because the Logan
yes.
from this universe is dead, and so I'm like, I wonder if this is like a symbolic thing because he has become Logan, if that makes sense. I was like,
That makes
ooh, am
sense.
I reading too much into this? Or is this, they're like doing a thing where they're like, no, he is Logan now, he
Yeah.
is becoming. And then I was like, well, how does this actually work in the multiverse thing? Are you saying that someone else can become someone else? Like, is he replacing him or is he becoming him? Like, if that makes sense.
We're just gonna say both. He's replacing him by becoming him. Uh,
Yeah.
but there's a wonderful like cutscene because as they finish that, we get us this beautiful skyline shot of Vancouver, Canada. Uh, which had me go, oh, thank God, there's some Vancouver in this goddamn movie. Because we all know it wasn't filmed here, which had me like, oh man, because like Vancouver works like New York and Ghostbusters or like Gotham City and Batman. It's kind of weirdly become its own character, like where the city becomes the character. That's kind
Yeah.
of what Vancouver has become for the Deadpool franchise. So to get that sunsetting skyline of beautiful British Columbia, it was really cool to see that. And then the set, and this is where I thought too. Do you know the restaurant Meat and Bread on in Gastown?
No, I don't.
I'm gonna have to take you because it's amazing.
Okay.
And the that's where I thought they were in front of. Like that's what it looked like. It looked like they
Mm,
were in front of Meat and Bread in Gastown at first. And I was like, maybe they did film in Vancouver, but I was like, no, they didn't. That's the set. That's the set.
yeah.
But it did have me like, hey, that looks like Meat and Bread. But it was pretty cool. Uh, and then we're back to Blind Al's and uh, Wade's apartment.
Yeah, everyone's there again. It's a nice
Everyone's
cyclical little, moment. We're back where we started, but it's better because Wade and Vanessa are talking again, and they're together again. It seems like.
it seems like.
Yeah, but Logan's here this time, so there's another person in the little group.
Yeah,
And I was telling Ryan, I was like, I love a good ending, like a happy ending. Like they didn't do the Marvel thing where they're like, "Oh, but wait, the next film, this thing is." They were just
right.
like, "Here's a nice happy ending." And theoretically, if no other film came after this, it would be able to stand on its own as an ending film. You know what I mean? I
Right.
hate this
Yep.
whole like maybe there's more, maybe there's more. Like they were like, there's things that could be made into new films in the future, but also it's enough of a rounded ending where it could just end.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. And if this is where it does end, uh, I'm okay with it. Right. Like it gave us a happy ending. And like you said, it gave us like an ending.
Yeah. And I
Like,
was a little bit like, I don't want to say concerned because I don't think that's the right word, but like it felt like Endgame in the sense that, wow, they're pulling all the stops. Like all of the famous people, all the cameos, like all these like fan servicey kind of things. And I was like, whoa, is this like a love letter, like a finale? You know what I mean?
but the love letter came right when the credits rolled.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
it was a very beautiful montage of all the interviews and behind the scenes of all the Fox movies.
Yeah.
Uh, and it was great. Like it was great to see. Like I don't know, it was just really nice seeing a really young Hugh Jackman like on the set of X-Men 1 and it was really good. Hang on, just right the after that in the mid credit, I take Deadpool and Wolverine as capping off the Fox universe. Yeah, absolutely. I agree with Tony Johnson there. It's no, it was just I don't know. Everything about it was just like super sweet and nice, and it just like it has you like. I know I'm part of this problem too. I'm not gonna say that I'm not. Where the Fox Marvel universe stuff got really frustrating at some points because you're just like, it's almost like when Sony makes a live action Spider-Man movie that has nothing to do with Spider-Man.
Yeah.
And
You're like, why are you doing this? We don't want this.
Like, what? Yeah. Like, why aren't you doing, like, just make it closer to the comics?
Yeah.
Right. Like, just, that's it. You don't have to, don't put your own spin on things. You don't need to, right? Marvel is an idea farm, take from the garden. Like, it's fine. But it was super sweet. And just seeing everyone just happy and doing their interviews. And it's funny because one of the interviews is Ryan Reynolds doing the media scrum for Blade Trinity, right? Like, and then another one where he's doing another media scrum for Wolverine Origins. Like, it's just like, oh, come on. Like, this is great. And I think Darth Vader's right. I think Blaine, it was New Line. Like, now that you say it, now that I'm reading it, I think you are correct. But they kind of, I don't know. I think we all kind of felt that was all the same, but it was, it was all that moment in time, and yeah, it was nice. I don't know. I liked it. In fact, I barely remember what the end after credit stinger was.
It was Johnny Storm's.
Right. Oh, it's him giving the receipts.
Just
like, you guys kept saying it was my fault.
That saved it. Otherwise, I would have gone out of the cinema being like, actually, Deadpool, I don't know if I like you so much. No. Yeah. They had him recite, because, Deadpool has a potty mouth. Him saying just the most egregious paragraph long slur, kind of is not anything surprising. We expect that of him. But for one, Johnny Storm, but then also Chris Evans, who has been Captain America and who has been so Disney-fied for so long, to just do the most filthy monologue, like, just, wow, it was like, it kept going. I was like, whoa.
Yeah. But it was like a splash of cold water to the face a little bit, because you are like, this is Mr. Captain America Chris Evans. Like, what's happening here? Like, it's
the Mr. Nice Guy,
Yes, right. He is like buff Mr. Rogers. That's how we see it, right? Like, he's and we love him for it. But it was one of those things where it's like, that's him. He's saying those things. This is wild, but I loved it. I loved it. Yeah, no, that was the movie. We totally like rooted through this and picked it apart. I loved it.
Yeah, I do too. I don't. Out of the 3 films, though, how would you rank the 3 films now?
Oh, that's a heavy question. Because Deadpool 2, there's something very special about Deadpool 2 with Cable.
Yeah.
I was kind of bummed we didn't get any kind of Cable cameo in this. A little bummed. And same with Domino, just a little bummed. That's okay. I'm sure there's reasons for whatever reason it is. Little bummed, but that's fine. Like, okay. Because it's like, we got Cable, we got Domino, we had X-Force, that Juggernaut Colossus fight. Plus, again, Deadpool talking to that kid and being like, yo, like, you don't, like, him, because he grows in that movie too.
Yeah.
Quite a bit, right? About learning how to be a team player.
Mm-hmm.
All that kind of stuff. So, and then him, and of course, all the fun stuff at the end where he travels through time and he saves Peter. He saves, like, well, again, we had Shatterstar. He was back for this from that too. And so he saved everybody. And they kind of go through all that. Deadpool 2 still, oh man, I don't know.
Because
this one had everything.
Yeah, I was going to say, I feel like Deadpool is a series where they've managed to consistently deliver. Each sequel is consistently just as good, if not better, depending on, your preferences, than the previous film. Because it's hard as a sequel to continuing being really good, especially when the first one was such a phenomenon. Like, I remember when the first film dropped and everyone was like, oh my gosh, we have not seen a superhero or even like an anti-hero film like this, it's just not made like that. And like, it was a moment in time. And then the second film, people were like, how do you one up that? And the second film was just as good. And now the third film, like, I've never been so excited in a cinema, enraptured by a film and like in it. I'm just like, even if you were to rank it, it's not because one is like a worse film or like a bad film. It's just like your preferences on the story, I guess, and like who's in it, I think.
Yeah. I think that's what it would really come down to, because this has got the Wolverine that I've dreamt about to see in movies my entire life, and we finally got there.
Yeah.
And it's hard to take that away. Like like everything was there.
Yeah.
And again, this is like, they say this is MCU. I want to bring this question up that I brought up earlier, and same with Guardians, it's MCU, but it doesn't feel like MCU. And yet a lot of people say those are the best Marvel movies. Is it because, do you think they just stand out more because, well, one, they have very similar soundtracks.
Yes.
In that sense, right? They do deal with that heavy stuff, the family stuff. Like, there's something very similar with Deadpool and Guardians of the Galaxy. Like, even though one's like PG and one's rated R.
Yes.
But there's definitely a parallel there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Do you feel the same way? Where these movies just feel better than what the usual, like, outside of, because they don't use the Marvel formula of storytelling.
Yeah. But also I think Marvel has become so synonymous with the Avengers that it's almost, when a different group of characters is doing so well, it almost makes them feel like it's not Marvel.
Right.
But
It makes them feel a little special.
Yeah, like, and I think that, when Avengers was first taking off, it wasn't even the MCU, right? Like, that's not how we referred to it as. It was the Avengers, right? It was still their own thing. And then it became synonymous with the MCU because they kind of raised the MCU into super mainstream kind of films.
Oh, we got trained too.
Yeah.
Like, we got trained. Like, they drilled that in our heads, like every Comic-Con and D23, and it would be like the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Like,
yes. Yeah, and then I think the difference is that Deadpool and Guardians of the Galaxy stand alone. Like, even if it wasn't called MCU, they stand alone as great media. But like other TV shows or other films, you go because they're in the MCU and not because they're good, if that makes sense. Right. And I feel like that's that distinction of like, for me, I didn't even really think about Deadpool as MCU because I've been a fan of his for a while, and it doesn't register in my brain as MCU. Like, he's his own thing,
Right. Same
and
here.
I think that,
even though they kept saying this is Deadpool's introduction to the MCU. Like, that's,
and I know that.
like, that's how the whole thing was, like, really pushed. Like, I was watching the red carpet, which is a lot like watching something from The Boys, because now that's all I see now is The Boys. But when they start doing their media stuff, where it's like, oh, hey, welcome, we're Disney. Can you believe this? Wow, so much fun. Because they kept like saying it's like, oh, this is it. Mutants are now in the MCU, and it was just like they kept going.
Yeah.
But I still feel like the mutants are still not really part of the MCU, even though they're like, Ms. Marvel's a mutant. She said the word mutant, but we have not seen mutants yet. Like, let's see it. So I'm curious to where this is all going to go, but I'm sure they have top paid writers in the industry working with Kevin Feige. Disney loves to pay their employees, so that they're going to have their top brass on the job. So I'm really curious to what it is. What's going to happen.
And I was telling Ryan, I was like, I can't help but feel like, well, actually, maybe I said this earlier in this podcast. It's hard to remember because it's been 2 hours long. But
oh my god,
I feel like this is kind of the new Avengers. Like, this is what they're trying to market it as. Is like, this is the new thing because people are. They're receiving such positive reviews for this, right? Where everything else they've kind of come out has been like, everyone knows people are criticizing Marvel, and
hey,
like,
they did it here. They did it in the movie too. Hey, sorry, like, hey, you're now part of the MCU. Sorry, we're at a bit of a low point.
Yeah. So they're like, let's cannibalize this other thing that's doing really well, and then market it as the MCU because
100%. You know what? And this brings up the whole thing with Kevin Feige earlier, where it's like, him being all like, "Oh yeah, X-Men 97 is doing great. People are loving it. And you know what? That's MCU canon." And he was just where everyone was like, "What are you talking about?" Like, no, it is not. Like, but we know he means multiverse or whatever it is, but it's just like,
Yeah.
dude, stop it. Like,
It's like, yeah.
come on, man. You know what you're up to. Oh, plus at the end of the Marvels, Monica Rambeau. Have you watched it? Have you watched the Marvels?
Uh, which one was that? Yeah, I have. It's the one with the like 5 of them, right? Like
Ms.
sorry,
Marvel,
there's
Captain
something.
Marvel.
Yes, yes,
Yeah,
yes, yes.
right. And then that end of credit sequence is Monica Rambeau waking up and Beast is there from the
Yeah,
X-Men. So I'm like, is she in Deadpool's world? So maybe that is where they're going.
maybe. But like, yeah, I don't think, I know they made this joke and it is a bit of a joke, but look, where they were like, they'll have you doing this, Deadpool's to Logan is like, they'll have you doing this till you're 90. And
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, look, we know, like Disney will, Marvel will squeeze it out whatever way they can. So even though I'm not sure if necessarily Deadpool as a solo will get another film, maybe he will, maybe he won't. I'm sure this is not the last we will see of him.
Yeah, I got a feeling too.
Yeah.
Right? It'll be definitely interesting. Okay. There were toy reveals. I was gonna go through them today, because Marvel Legends did a bunch of toy reveals, including Deadpool 2, Colossus, a Venom pool, which we didn't get in the movie, which would have been awesome. Probably
Yeah.
no budget left. Right, and then 2 different Wolverines, and then of course Deadpool in his latest costume. But you know what? We can go over those on Tuesday night at Toy Anxiety. But also next week on Wednesday, we're going to be back at our normal time. Alex right now is in San Diego Comic-Con being a goddamn rock star. He is the hero of the weekend over in the toy industry right now. For those who don't know, they unveiled his real Ghostbusters action figures, the 2-packs. So those got revealed this weekend, as well as they announced Alex is doing an updated 1/6 scale Wolverine for the X-Men series as well. So he's going to be on, like, of course, well, Alex is going to be on. Alex is part of the show. But
we'll
also
invite Alex on. It'll be like an amazing guest.
He'll be great. And we're also going to like put him on the spot and bring his boss on, Mr. Attack Peter, the legendary. And then we're going to talk about some of those Batman animated series reveals, those X-Men reveals. You know, the Yes Have Some podcast crew and Toy Anxiety, they'll talk Ghostbusters all goddamn day. So we'll just leave that to them. But if Peter's on and you got Ghostbusters questions, I don't know why I'm saying this on this particular moment, because guess what? There's like no one's here except for us, Alice.
Yeah.
Right.
Well,
but
no, there have been a consistent like 10-ish people who have been here. I think almost the whole thing. Look, I don't know if they swapped out with other people, but there've been 10 of you. So I see you. Thank you for being here.
Yes. Thank you for being here. Yeah, thank you for hanging out with us. I'm happy you all saw the movie, and for anyone who's doing on the rewatch and still watching, you know what? Thank you for just hanging out with us. Leave a comment below on what your favorite scenes were, moments were. What do you wish you saw? Do you wish you got to see Colossus give Wolverine a fastball special? Let me know. Leave a comment down below. So thank you, everyone. Yeah, we're gonna end it here. There's Alice's comic. There's a link down for it below. What's it called?
All Haven Academy. We're back from hiatus. If you need something to read, link down below.
Everyone, please go check it out. It's an amazing, beautiful comic, and Alice works her ass off on it, and it shows. It's beautiful. So with that said, have a great night, everyone. Have a great night. Hope you all enjoyed the movie, and we will, you know what? We'll see you on Wednesday.